Welcome back, NoDQ Galaxy, to this special Sunday night edition, post WWE Survivor Series edition of the NoDQ review number 214. And because we are doing it on this night, we have a special guest making his triumphant return to the NoDQ panel. Of course, former WCW Hardcore Champion, Tag Team Champion, Big Vito. What's up, Vito? Welcome back. What's up?
What's going on in the NoDQ forum? Hope everybody's doing good. Aaron, it's good to see you. You know, we got a new guy here. I don't even know what your name is. What is it, Beaver? Walter? What do you got? Yeah. All right. And Walter. You know what? You want to know what start? We're going to start this off right, Walter. Okay.
Yes.
All right. We had to break in Jeff Meacham. All right. And we broke that poor son of a bitch. He was doing podcasts out of his closet, mom's clothes in the background. And what do you got? A rug from Walmart. What the hell's up with that background?
Well, there you go. What's on it, Walter? You want to explain it to Vito?
It's a memorial for my mother-in-law that passed away last year.
All right, your mother-in-law passing away last year. All right, we'll give you a break, okay? There will be no jokes about your mother-in-law passing, but you will have better accommodations next time I'm around. We don't play here, NoDQ, all right?
Green screen.
Right, you with the Channel 4 News team, on. The original guys.
He's ordering a green screen now.
In, please.
Jeff Meacham has a green screen now,
Aaron,
Vito.
why do you give me these bums, Aaron? Why?
Well, Walter Cruz, he's a stand-up guy. He helps out. He's an intern. He's slowly working his way up the ladder, rung by rung. But Vito, we appreciate you elevating him tonight on the NoDQ review.
Walter, hey, you know what's coming, Vito. This is what he does to everybody. He even did it to me back in the day.
I love it about him. I know Vito. I love it about him.
Vito, please stand by because we need your wrestling take on these wrestling topics from somebody with experience.
I know you guys got a great show. Aaron, how was your Thanksgiving? Let's go around with the Thanksgiving. But first, let's do a congratulations to my friend, Mr. Virtual, on getting engaged. Big stuff. Congratulations.
Thank you. No wedding date set yet, but it will be.
And you know, there was a small poll on Leslie's page about engagement parties. I gave the thumbs up.
Ooh,
engagement party. That's what's got to happen.
You're all about the party.
You know you're going to have a bachelor party, right?
Now, the reason why we're doing this tonight, obviously Thursday night we would have done the show, but it was Thanksgiving, so everybody was off. So this worked out well. And guess what? We had a big show last night with WWE Survivor Series, so we need everybody's opinion on that. Aaron already did it last night, but hey, sometimes, you know, it might set in a little bit more, Aaron. It's good to have it the next day. Aaron, what's up before we move along? What's going on with you?
Does Walter even get an introduction, or is he so low on the totem pole?
He's on bagels and donuts right now. Bagels and donuts. I like sweet and low in my coffee. All right, and make sure the pencils are sharpened because we need the eraser to get rid of some riffraff in our room. That's what we're talking about here.
I'm getting to him. I never forget anybody. No man.
All right, the ball busting was my intro.
That's right.
Hey, to be fair, Walter does have a proper headset, which is something that half of our panelists don't even have. Walter's at least got that going for him. Anyways, I'm doing well.
Seeing, it's awesome. It's awesome, guys. What do we got on the show? I know you guys got an action-packed show. Walter, welcome. You're joining the Channel 4 News team. Don't get too comfortable. Don't get like you're in with the boys. This is a tryout. All right, they have them in NXT.
I love this, Vito. You moderate the show, baby. I love it.
I'm telling you, I run shit.
I gave you the topics in the other chat. Do you want to just kick it off? Do we just start talking about these topics?
I don't know. All I got to start off with now, Walter, you don't know me too well, but I love AEW bloopers. This is my thing. I work nights, and that's what I do. I search bloopers, right? Botches and bloopers, and that's my thing. What do you think about AEW botches? What do you think? What's your honest opinion?
I love it. I mean, I do. Walter.
I love it too. There's a hell of a lot to work with. They give you a lot of material. I'll tell you that much.
Hey, you know what? I love the fact that there's so many variations of who knew heaven is a place on earth. I love that.
I wouldn't be opposed. Is there a WWE botches page too? Like, to be fair, there was a botch in there.
I have been tweeting it. I've been tweeting it for it to be a botch page.
It's all good. Like, we love watching them.
But let's get to the nitty gritty, right? Let's go with this Jericho match, right? Jericho AEW, that slap fest. Guys, what was your take on that? Because I'm still having nightmares about it.
This is Vito's version of the super chat right here, except he doesn't super chat. He's just throwing us an extra topic. Remember that, Matt? Was that on Dynamite or Rampage?
Dynamite.
They were doing that slap. I mean, I'm not a fan.
But I
completely forgot about that match. See, here's the thing. I already forgot about the match, but now I know what you're talking about.
That was a throwback because Jericho was one of the young boys back in Japan when they fought before. And so they were just playing up on that when Jericho was like, 24, 25 when he was in Japan wrestling people like this. So that's what they do. They chop the hell out of him. His chest looked like that red meat. It was worse than Daniel Bryan. When Daniel Bryan's chest got like that in the WWE,
Jericho it didn't even look right, though. Vito, it didn't look good. Would you sit there and do that with another wrestler and purposely smack each other like that?
We're having some feedback here. Are you guys freezing up like I am?
No. Aaron?
Everything's good on my end.
Yeah. We're good on our end, so it might be just your connection, Vito. With that said, reboot. So here's the thing, guys. We watch the botches online all the time. People comment on them. Wrestlers like Bully Ray tell Big G, how do you know it was a botch? It is what it is. When Vito says it's a botch, I think we can believe it. Until he comes back, though, he wanted to talk about botches, Shibata, Jericho. That looked like crap. We still got to cover a couple of things because since we did the last review, it was AEW Full Gear, correct? We didn't do anything about Full Gear. I mean, Aaron did, but we didn't. And MJF is the new AEW World Champion, so we have to get everybody's thoughts on that. So, Walter Cruz, I'm going to come right at you first on this. I didn't do your introduction, but MJF is the World Champion. Now, here's the way I'm looking at it, okay? Mm-hmm. We know the Elite's back right there. We're going to be like adults. We're moving on from CM Punk, but yet they're having fun with all the anti-CM Punk stuff, okay? Mm-hmm. Punk is gone. AEW right now is on MJF's shoulders. He wants to be that big free agent of 2024, and I still think he's going to stay in AEW. I think he's going to get the big fat contract from Tony Khan, but never say never. If he's worth whatever he thinks he's going to go for in the market in a couple of years, right now he can prove it. And I'm telling you what, it's going to be a lot of pressure because AEW has been stagnant. Now, you can say that their ratings are, irrelevant if they're still getting money from TNT and sponsors, and their pay-per-views are still doing good at the live gates, $1 million, 140, 150,000 buys. But Walter Cruz, MJF is your new world champion. You have to have thoughts on this.
I'm all for it. We all knew it was coming. We even knew that. We called it right there in the review that he was going to use the power of the punch. He said, I'm not even using the ring, we all went up. Regal's going to help him. Now, part of me don't understand why they use Regal. Like, hopefully Regal isn't a manager because MJF's the type of person that doesn't need a mouthpiece. He's A+ on the mic. He's good on the stick. He doesn't need anybody to talk for him. So I do want to see where that goes. But he doesn't need it. But I'm glad he is the champ. And like you said, this is his chance to carry AEW on his back. He's the second homegrown title holder because you got Hangman Adam Page. That was the first actual homegrown talent to have it. And we all kind of crap on his title reign. So let's see what MJF can do. And all these little teases of CM Punk kind of makes me think he's coming back. That he's not going to go away. He might return to AEW because it's like, why would they keep mentioning it? If there was like no negotiation, there was nothing coming of CM Punk, they would try to hide from it and never mention him. All these little subtle teases make me think that they think there's a chance of him coming back and they're just trying to plant little seeds and they can use them. And I'm all for it. If they could turn real life into story, that's some of the best stories that any company can take. And hopefully Tony Khan grows the balls to do this. Because I feel like he's a little scared, like, to put his foot down. He has no balls. Let's see if he turns it around. But, yeah, I'm glad MJF is the champ. And it seems like they're drilling home that he's a heel the way that's probably what the purpose was for the Regal, because now I just answered my own question. It's to try to get you to know he's a heel, and they want you to know that because we were cheering him too much.
Now, Vito, this is MJF's time, man. He's got that weight of the world on his shoulders, right? You know, Dave Meltzer and anybody that's in the AEW praise bubble, it's the best thing. And MJF's great, but he needs to show that he can be like the main guy. So what do you think happens here with AEW with him as the main guy? Heel or face, it doesn't matter. Pay-per-view buys, television ratings. What's your thoughts on MJF as the world champ?
Guys, I got to give you the real scoop here, okay? Now, AEW's had some prominent people be champion, okay? Yeah, Chris Jericho and the ratings were up. And that was probably the best they had. Now, ever since then, we've had a few different champions, and the ratings have kept going lower and lower and lower. I think the Page Kid's title reign was the absolute ever-loving shits because he didn't want to listen to nobody. He wasn't ready. He didn't know how to be champion. I think Kenny Omega's run was the absolute ever-loving shits, and he was supposed to be the best wrestler in the world. Instead of him showing the world what he was about, he had a bunch of bandwagon jumpers jump on his train, and he got saturated with everybody hanging on to his coattail, and it ruined everything. And he looked like a bum on his first promos, and he didn't know how to carry himself as a true world champion, you know, and he proclaimed himself to be like on the Rock's level. You ain't even on the level of the level to even get a tryout, my friend. But here's the thing with MJF. He's been scratching and clawing and bitching and moaning, and mostly bitching and moaning. What is the most prominent match he's had up until this point? The Moxley match. And everybody shit on the Moxley reign because they said that wasn't any good. So what is the standard that he has to pass? Is he going to have to top 1 million? Is he going to have to top 750? Is he going to have to top 600? I don't see him carrying this company and being anything of a draw because he's a little guy. He's got a big mouth. He hasn't done any great wrestling. He's not AJ Styles caliber wrestler. He's the average wrestler, right? They let him go on the stick and say all these curse words that even like pros wouldn't dare do. The Rock never did it. You know, Stone Cold never did it. Dave Bautista Cena never did it. You know, so Edge never did it. And these guys are true world champions. So you start off like that and nobody wants to listen to your garbage and they think you're disrespectful to women and children. And when you flip the finger to little kids, that's definitely a turnoff. So we're going to give this a month. We're going to look at the ratings and we're going to see where it's going. You know, if he doesn't hit a high and stay there, they're going to shit on this. And I've been saying it all along. Get all the WWE guys that you signed. Get rid of the guys who have been in AEW. Put on a WWE card with WWE standards, and you will produce a good show. Period.
So isn't that like doing the TNA route, though? Like, I mean, shouldn't there be and again, I guess look at WCW back in the day. They had their own stars, but they relied also on the WWE stars when they got big. So don't you want the MJFs of the world to elevate as well? Like you can't just have a WWE promotion outside of, you know what I mean? Because look at TNA.
But they have given all these guys a chance. They've given them a chance on all these little shows they had. And what do you see? A bunch of botches, a bunch of glitches, a bunch of young wrestlers who don't have the experience, who never had the privilege to be in territories, gain the knowledge, gain the work experience they need to be on the main scene on world television, and you expose yourself as a shitty wrestler with shitty promos and shitty moves. And when you go and you sign with AEW and you wrestle once a week, that doesn't make you a pro. When we were doing it 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, sometimes twice in a day, days in a row. That's how you be a pro, not this 1 day a week garbage.
Vito has spoken. Pressure on MJF. Aaron, I know you've covered this because you did your post-show Full Gear and talked about MJF being the world champ. Anything that you would like to add?
Well, I will respond to Vito's comments and maybe even a little bit of what Walter Cruz had to say, although he is the interim, so we won't talk too much about what Walter had to say. I think that MJF is actually a really good wrestler. I enjoyed the dog collar match. I enjoyed the Moxley match. I enjoyed the Darby Allin match. I'm entertained by MJF, and I think he's a better wrestler than people give him credit for. And as far as his promos, he's a top-tier guy. Is he short? Yes. that is probably the biggest downside, is that he's not the tallest guy in the locker room, although it's not a very tall locker room to begin with. But I think that he has enough personality to perhaps make a difference, but the jury is out on it. We'll see if they can get the numbers up. The TV numbers are definitely down. Rampage is way down, but that's a whole other issue. And attendance is definitely down. We'll see if MJF can help turn those numbers around. I'm not sure if there's any one guy that can do it, though, but they do need to really focus on their homegrown guys. I do like the idea of WWE people being in the mix, but I think if they're going to have any chance of succeeding long-term, they need to create their own homegrown stars. I'm not sure if they're capable of doing it, though. That remains to be seen. For TNA, they always had the excuse, well, it's a new company. It takes time to build stars, but they never really got to that level with those guys that they had, like AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. They had to go to WWE to become big stars. TNA could never really get those guys to that level. Time will tell with MJF. I think he would do very well in WWE, but he might be a smaller fish in the pond. He might not be the top guy in WWE. The jury is out. I do think that there are a lot of options for him in AEW. I think you have a lot of opponents he can defend the title against. You got the potential rematch with Darby Allin. You got Jungle Boy, more short guys, by the way. But yeah, you got Wardlow, who is a guy who I think should probably be the guy that eventually beats him for the title. Wardlow is a guy that could be their top guy as far as looks go, but they've kind of squandered his potential at this point.
They wasted him, and when that guy was started bumping in that one match, I seen him, destroyed him when he had that good push. Now, here's what I want to say to you, right, guys? I know you guys are logical guys. I'm going to pick 3 guys, and I want you to give me an honest opinion. If it was a straight-up wrestling shoot fight, would MJF beat them? I'm going to start off with Miro. Is Miro, compared to MJF, who would you want as your champion? I'd pick Miro. If it was Billy Gunn against MJF, look at the size difference. There's no question in my mind Billy Gunn could whoop his ass, right? But if there's some mysterious flake in the thing, when I seen Darby Allin beat Billy Gunn with one bump, that just killed me. That killed the business, right? Now, and then you have the Big Show. You have the Big Show standing there against MJF for the world title. You mean to tell me MJF is going to kick the shit out of the Big Show and pin him? Tell me this is going to happen.
2022 Big Show, yeah. He's got a bad hip.
Yeah, and Billy Gunn, Jack, and everything. Dude, look. Maybe like Miro, I can see. The thing is, right? We've talked about Miro. Remember his original run in WWE, squandered by Cena. Rusev Day, I think that was squandered by Cena. What is Miro not? Is he not given the brass ring, or maybe he just can't grab it because he hasn't done anything in AEW either? So is it Miro? Maybe he's not world champion quality. I'm just saying, man. I might pick MJF over.
He's got it.
I thought you were going to throw like Jericho into the title back, your boy Moxley. Then I was going to.
I'm going size.
But okay, I would still pick MJF if he's a chicken shit heel and he has that backup and cheats, because that's what people like him do. It doesn't matter what his size is; they find ways. In that instance, I pick MJF over everybody you just selected.
I think hey, listen, you're entitled to your analytic opinion, which is what we're doing here at NoDQ. And everybody
I love Billy Gunn too.
No, and everybody does love Billy Gunn. If you had to put Billy Gunn as your world champion, like I've been saying for the last couple of years, who's more charismatic? Who's got the speech? Who's got the promo? Who's got the body? Who's got the look? Who's got the wrestling capabilities to be that guy? He does, right? But then you have, Chris Jericho, who I like very much, and he just did a great job as champion, and he did a great job of bringing along guys. But you look at what he did last night in that slap fest. It made me sick, because this is what you're putting on TV, and it looked pathetic. If you were in WWE, would you be doing this? Would Vince McMahon allow you to have these kind of matches? Absolutely not.
He was doing great stuff like the Festival of Friendship with Kevin Owens. And
that was the great stuff.
And that's the thing. when he left and he went to Japan, that was great stuff. His early AEW run as world champion, great stuff. And then I don't know what happened with Jericho, but I've even been cringing. But nonetheless, Vito, this was about MJF. He's the world champion. We've all spoke our piece on him, and we have to see this out now. And guess what? Time's going to tell. Vito's going to either say, I told you so, or I'm going to say, yeah, maybe he is a good thing for them. Walter, before we move on, yes.
Just one thing on MJF, I think he relies heavy too much on the cussing. Like, I want to see him cut a good promo and chill out with even though I'm all about freedom of speech and cussing is cool and all, when you overdo something to try to be cool, it makes you look dumb, kind of like you have no vocabulary skills and that's all you can do is cuss.
ECW Brian Pillman, and he can figure out when the right way is to say cuss words. Now, granted, some of those swear words you're not going to get on TNT.
Yeah. But like, look at Raven. Raven had awesome promos, and he used big words. It was all psychological. Like, Raven had some of the best. Like, Raven is really, really underrated. Like, the way he cut, especially in ECW, those promos he cut, and then like, look, he used a famous poet in there, and at the end of everything, he said, "Quote the Raven nevermore." A lot of people didn't even know what that was from. Yeah. So it's
Raven's good, man. Raven's good.
You got to use psychological stuff too. Is like too much on the cussing.
Well, speaking of psychological, we're going to move on to the next topic. Next topic is we have Bray Wyatt that has been back now for over a month, and he's coming out and he's doing his regular thing like he's Wyndham Rotunda, which I've been a fan of, but we know he's keeping that creepy element in his gimmick with the Uncle Howdy or whatever these figures are called, but he's mixing it up with LA Knight. I like that because we need to elevate new stars. LA Knight gets called a Rock clone, a Stone Cold clone, but you know what? He gets it. He knows what got over in the Attitude Era, and he's trying to maybe morph his own thing. And this kind of reminds me of a Austin Rock type Attitude Era Intercontinental title thing where it doesn't have to be the main event, but you got two star, Bray Wyatt maybe giving LA Knight the rub. So, Aaron, I want to come over to you. I've enjoyed this so far. I know some people are going to be like, well, we're going to get the creepy stuff, and that's really going to ruin it. But I'm telling you, man, I'm interested in this non-title feud almost as much as the Bloodline stuff. Not quite. What do you think here so far with Bray Wyatt and mixing up with LA Knight? Remember what he was doing not too long ago under Vince McMahon? Now he gets to be himself.
First of all, I'm surprised you're having me go first for once. That's unusual.
Curveball.
Walter
Sunday night, baby.
It is Sunday night. Walter Cruz threw in a $5 super chat. He says, welcome to the special Sunday review. Like, share this video. # stick to my shtick. Get merchandise and feel merchy. What do you think about that tagline, Vito?
It's, Walter Cruz for $5. I mean, he's great.
I agree with you. For $5, I'll
Is that like your
Walter
play on
Cruz
Uzi? Is that your play on Uzi, Walter? Okay.
Yeah, Phil Merchie. Get our merchandise.
But yeah, Aaron, I always forget about you. And I always just push you last because, he can do the super chats and he can just say, I agree. I'm putting you first just because I'm telling you what, man, I'm intrigued by this. And even on the LA Knight standpoint, I want to see at least new upper mid-card stars to care about in WWE, not just the same old.
I agree with you. I'm really enjoying this storyline so far. I like Bray Wyatt as a babyface and how he's using Uncle Howdy as a way to do dark things. Uncle Howdy brings out the dark side of Bray Wyatt. I like that, and I like how Bray's trying to do the right thing, but he's got people instigating him. You have somebody like LA Knight who is running his mouth, and he's doing a fantastic job now. I'm really happy to see LA Knight getting his opportunity to shine. I think he's on point with his promos. He always delivers. He has a lot of personality. He's 40 years old, but look at Bobby Lashley. That guy peaked at 45. He became WWE champion, 44, 45 years old. I think with LA Knight, he's got a good solid 4 to 5 years, I think, to be an upper tier guy in WWE. And I think he's really getting a chance to shine with Bray Wyatt. I think that this feud between them has a lot of potential to really elevate LA Knight to the next level. I think it's a great pairing, and so far I'm a huge fan of it. And we do have a $5 super chat from Matt Phillips Reviews. He said, it's ironic that Chris Jericho calls himself the Ocho as it is his 8th gimmick in pro wrestling. Did you guys know that?
Wow. I mean,
I know what Ocho meant. I just didn't know it was his eighth gimmick.
Yeah, that is news to me, but thank you for that little bit of trivia, Matt Phillips Reviews. I appreciate it. And Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat. Here's a question. How soon does Alexa Bliss get involved? Walter, do you think that's going to happen?
I don't think it's necessary. Like maybe LA Knight can ask her for advice for a second, but I don't think you involve her. You don't need it. You don't need it. LA Knight and Bray Wyatt's all you need. Like you don't, and the Uncle Howdy stuff. You don't need to add other.
Well, here's a question for Vito or for Walter. Where does this go as far as the characters that were rumored? There was this talk of the Wyatt Six. Should we even see those other characters? Should we see somebody revealed as Uncle Howdy? Should Bo Dallas be Uncle Howdy? People have been speculating about this. Should it even be done? Is it necessary? Walter, what do you think?
Well, let's go to Vito now.
Yeah, let Vito
go. Yeah, answer Aaron's question and just talk about this thing in general. I know you've had some. You've told me before what your vision was with the Wyatts. Obviously, he didn't go to AEW. He's back in WWE.
Guys, I thought the Wyatts were a great faction. I thought they never should have broke up. I think if they would have stayed together, they'd still be one of the strongest and biggest stars in the business. Okay, you have Braun Strowman not doing anything. You have Eric Rowan still not involved. He's not wrestling either company. And you look at it and say, okay, they've been dragging out Bray Wyatt and they've been having him give the rub to LA Knight, but Bray Wyatt hasn't established himself to do anything yet. And now the mention of Alexa Bliss was brought up. You know, could LA Knight be in a feud with Bray Wyatt, have a match, him get slaughtered with all this spooky haunted mansion stuff, and then all of a sudden who comes to his aid but Alexa Bliss in the original Wyatt character, and then Alexa Bliss doing the screw job on LA Knight and reuniting with Bray Wyatt, which would be a great thing because people love that. I thought it was awesome. It was one of her best characters. And then bring in Mr. Howdy to fight off LA Knight. So this way you're elevating the Wyatts. You're getting something together with Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt. You're elevating LA Knight and keeping him strong. And then you're introducing a new character. So you introduce 2 new characters in this feud. And then you're adding to your stable with the Wyatts.
I'm all about like getting people on TV. That's what they did in the Attitude Era. I mean, if you have people on your roster, make them matter. So by any means necessary, Vito, I think it would be clever if like the Wyatt Six came to life. Maybe not initially, but over time. And I don't know, Walter, what do you think here? Again, you don't need title picture. You can just have good upper mid card stuff and have a good feud. And as long as here's the big deal with Bray Wyatt. Right, they want to protect him and keep him healthy, as long as they don't have smoke and mirrors matches. Like when he was with his Wyatt early days, he had won against a lot of big stars. And I went and did something on Twitter, and he had multiple big pay-per-view matches against big names that went 15, 20 minutes. Like they weren't horrible matches. Like they might not have been perfect matches, but he could go right. And then he started getting the injury bug. These matches that whatever develops out of this, give him time. Like we all thought him and Orton at WrestleMania last year or 2, whenever it was, that was going to be an awesome match because they were going to give it time. And they did. It was 5-minute squash match, more or less. Orton beat him, the whole Bliss turn. So Walter Cruz, give them time. Like what do you think here with Wyatt, LA Knight, any characters like Aaron said that this Wyatt Six could evolve into?
People forget Wyatt won the Chamber as that original. Like Wyatt did put some good things on. It's just that they only ruined the Fiend part of him when they fed him the Goldberg. That was the whole downfall for me. But in terms of I think you don't need the characters for his first initial feud unless you're really stretching out the LA Knight thing. I think if you're gonna bring back the Wyatt Six, you need to do it slow, build, anticipate, introduce one character at a time. Let us get used to that one character, get fans behind it, then introduce the next one, then introduce. Don't do this big because you're gonna overexpose or oversaturate it. If you do too much at one time, then all the anticipation for what happens next goes away. You got to keep the fans wanting more. So I say you introduce it one at a time. But in terms of Uncle Howdy, I don't think that's going to be a separate, a different person. That's going to be an alternate ego of Wyatt. Like when he's in the ring, that Uncle Howdy mean side of him comes out. Then when he's out of the ring, kind of like the Fun House and the Fiend was two different. That's just what that Uncle Howdy is like, his in-ring persona, and then Wyatt is himself during promos. But I do like where this is going, and I do like the feud. But a part of me has a little anxiety, and I just want to see Wyatt wrestle. I want to see the fight. Like the promos are cool and everything, and it's cool to see him get hurt. But now, get all the promos and the backstage stuff, and I know they're running an angle where he hurt his shoulder now, LA Knight, so they could prolong it a little. But I'm ready to see these two to go. Maybe I don't know if they can stretch it to WrestleMania. What are we in November? Maybe you have to do the one-on-one at Royal Rumble, or he eliminates him from the Rumble, and then that sets up a future match at WrestleMania. I don't know exactly where it's going, but it'll be cool to see. But if you do too much at once with the characters, that you oversaturate it, and then we're gonna lose interest in Wyatt again. You're gonna do too much.
Walter, you know it's oversaturated, Walter, okay? Now, here's your first lesson, okay? You need to go to your damn room. You taking a half hour. We only got a 25-minute show, and you freaking have this long-winded friggin' explanation and how you're fascinated, you're a fan. Stop being a fanboy. You're an analyst, a journalist. You just joined the Channel 4 news team, and you blew it, kid. Jesus Christ.
What character would you be in the Wyatt Six?
Man, I would like to be somebody really.
Which? Abigail. You could be any of them, right?
But hold on, but you know what? I would love to be Sister Abigail, because that character never came up. Vito in the dress coming up to be Sister Abigail out of the ground, like, and not talking about like we could talk about a white dress and all the makeup on and just being like this cool. That would be cool. That's who I'd want to be.
Great answer. All right, Aaron, you had a super chat before we move on, because we are going to talk about Survivor Series, but it's kind of fallout from Survivor Series, and I want to break some key points out. So that's kind of how we'll do the main event. It'll be like in 3 sections. But before then, Aaron, was there a super chat that came through?
Yes, we have one from Psycho Jet Black. He sent in $5. And by the way, journalists don't cough on camera, so make sure you cut that out, Walter Cruz.
That's why I muted it.
Oh, you got that down at least.
Oh my God. We got to find new talent somewhere. What is this, AEW? Jesus Christ.
Psycho Jet Black says, do you think that Vince McMahon purposely messed with Bray Wyatt's push as a way to keep him from being bigger than WWE? Anybody buy into that? I know they butted heads creatively, but would Vince really sabotage Bray Wyatt because he doesn't want him getting too big?
Yes. I've been there. I've seen it. It's happened.
I think it could happen for sure. But
when you become larger than life, guys, right? And you become bigger than your push. And this has happened to me several times. When you become bigger than what they expect, they always pull you back and they shit on you and they ruin your run somehow. Vito in the undefeated era of the right.
Case in point.
I never had a pay-per-view. Wyatt should have wiped the street with Cena. Wyatt should have beat The Undertaker. Wyatt should still be champion, and he should have never left the company.
Shouldn't have lost to Goldberg.
No, shouldn't have lost to Goldberg. Right? Yeah. But what happened? It's the politics of wrestling that ruin wrestling careers.
I said it before. Cena got too big, and he didn't want Wyatt. I said that they don't like people getting bigger than what they are. They had to deal with it with Hogan. They had to deal with it with Cena.
They had, during that feud with Cena, what I remember is it was like it went like 3 matches. Cena obviously won the feud, but Wyatt, the heel, the fans were like engaged with him, and you could just see him slowly getting over and over and over. And I'm telling you, man, I just wonder, like what Vito said, like could Vince McMahon have seen that and said, nope, we're gonna bring Bray down a little bit. I don't know. With Vince
It does
McMahon,
happen, guys.
anything
It
is
does
possible.
happen. It happens throughout all of wrestling, no matter what territory you go to, right? And I've experienced this. You can't be bigger than who's on top. And if you blow up, Skull Von Crush was a big, vicious heel. And any territory he went to, he had runs in every territory. But they only let me get so high on the card before I got beat. And they only let you go so far. Skull Von Crush was a great German character. And then when I came over to ECW, when you talk about ECW, right? Now, I wrestled all of the top guys in ECW, but I couldn't find a spot. But I wrestled in all the championship matches because we have all the house show tapes here. Compliments of Rob Feinstein. I got all of the ECW house show tapes. We went through them. Do you know how many championship matches I had in ECW? Tons, guys. Yeah. Tons. Okay. And when you go somewhere and you say, hey, Paul, I'd like to move up on the card, and they say, don't have a spot for you. That's how we came up with the Baldies, right? And then when the Baldies were running good, right, and we beat New Jack, Balls, and Axel, that's when I got signed to WCW, and I left, and the Baldies were no more. But you talk about a group that could have been bigger than what they were, absolutely.
Vito, part of the groups, and the Mama Lukes over in WCW.
Vito, does that happen in? Does that happen in other companies like the UFC, or they actually want you to become bigger because it leads to more money? Like Conor McGregor, is he bigger than the actual UFC?
The thing with Conor McGregor is, right, when you don't have money, guys, and then you get a taste of money, and then you get a winning streak, and you get that fame, and you get cozy, right? You think you're bigger than what you are. And then when he came back, he lost. Ronda Rousey, right? If she would have never got into the hoopla, the movies, and anything else, she'd still be undefeated and still be in the UFC. But she was doing movies, she wasn't training. And then when Holly Holm beat her, everybody was like, "Oh my God, how can this happen? Holly Holm's gonna get the street wipe with her." Holly Holm took her out, and she's no slouch.
It's a good point, right? They go extracurricular and then they fall from grace.
They fall from grace.
Main event time, and we're going to be talking about fallout from Survivor Series. The first thing, so the women's War Games match was obviously won thanks to Becky. She closed the show there for that match. She came back the night before, right? Becky Lynch has got to always be involved. We get it. Is it just me, gentlemen, or did Becky just steal all of Bianca Belair's spotlight? I mean, she's the Raw Women's Champion. That's her team. And I felt like it was Becky's team. And that's what sat wrong with me. Like, I don't know, Big Vito. Becky Lynch, like, she's a star, right? Her and Seth, right? The power couple, the new Stephanie and Triple H. But I'm telling you what, did she take the shine off of Bianca Belair? Because, like, shouldn't that have been her moment there? The big star, the champion? Like, what? Yeah. Am I looking at it wrong?
You're looking at it totally wrong. From a worker's standpoint. When the worker's standpoint, right? When you go into big matches like that, and if you have the mind to know when to take charge of the match, anytime you're in a championship match, you always make sure you shine and you outshine the champion. Becky Lynch is not the champion, but she knew how to outshine Bianca Belair and steal the spotlight, right? So, being that Becky Lynch has the experience to know when to turn it on, when to turn it off, when it is time, when it's money time, when it's go time. That's what you saw last night. And it doesn't take away from Bianca Belair, the women's champion. It's just that Becky Lynch knows the game and knows how to get the crowd, get the fan base, take over a match, and you don't need a belt. The belt is a prop to get somebody over. She doesn't need the belt. So she got herself over in a match.
So lesson learned then, to my point, is that's what I noticed, right? I noticed Becky doing that.
Yes.
Should Bianca have stepped up and said, this is my match? Like, she didn't. She didn't. You're right. But should she
know how? She didn't know how.
Okay.
Because one thing when Nunzio and I, when Nunzio and I were together and Nunzio became champion, I would watch from the outside, okay? And one thing I noticed about Nunzio, he was fighting like a contender and he wasn't fighting like a champion. And I pulled him aside and said, Nuns, you got to start fighting like a champion. He says, Vito, what do you mean? I says, you're fighting like you're fighting for the belt instead of you defending it. You have to lay everybody out and you have to stand tall over everybody to let the people know that you're the champ and this is your house, this is your ring, that's my belt. Not everybody knows that secret. Bianca Belair didn't outshine and didn't lay anybody out or didn't have everybody down to where she could just give me one of these, show me the love, people. She didn't do that. Becky Lynch did it. And that's the problem with today's wrestlers. They don't know how to take the shine or the spotlight and be the one standing to let the people know that you are the most dominant wrestler in the ring at the time.
Now, Walter, it is a team thing here with War Games. So, like, I guess you could say moot point, but you want to add anything to this?
I think it is a team thing, but I think Becky's going to get a title shot against Ronda, and you want to make her – she had to do something big to look good as to why, just because she came back, we're giving her a title shot for Ronda. You know, there's got to be little things she does in the match that make sense as to why she's going to get a future title shot. So we could look at it like, look, she still got it. She's willing to risk what she's doing and things. So it can make logical sense as to why she's going to get the next title shot.
How could it be logical if you do things in a match and not put together matches and wrestle individuals and earn your title shot? You mean to tell me if I did 3 spectacular things in a match, you're going to give me a title shot without beating nobody? She has to earn her keep. So how could you say that?
That's true. That's true.
Walter, go to your room.
Well, if you're talking about Becky, she's earned her keep by just being Becky Lynch at this point. But Tito brought in the chat, remember, Becky came back to beat Bianca at SummerSlam in seconds. Remember that? So I feel Becky comes back and she's doing her thing. This is I'm the man. I'm taking my spot back.
Well, her doing that could have been like her stomp on the "I'm back, baby" type thing.
Yeah. All right, Aaron, anything you'd like to add?
Becky Lynch is the biggest star in the women's division. And of course, she's going to shine the brightest. This was her return match. She's probably facing Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania. Now, if it continues to be an issue, then yeah, there's something that needs to change. But I feel like it was just the return of Becky Lynch, and that was supposed to be the showcase. We'll see what happens in the future. I suspect Becky Lynch will win the Royal Rumble, and she'll probably be facing Ronda Rousey. I'm thinking Bianca Belair will face Charlotte or Rhea Ripley. They've been teasing that. I'm not surprised, though, that Becky Lynch was the one standing tall. She's the star of the division.
And I'm okay with that, Aaron. Like I like Becky, so I'm perfectly fine with that. I think my criticism here as an analyst, journalist, is the whole Bianca, like, you want to be a star, you headline night 1 of WrestleMania, you want to headline night 2 of WrestleMania, take it. Like, you're given that platform to be out there in that match, take it. Like, I don't think you're going to rub anybody the wrong way. I don't know.
Bianca said that in the press conference that's her dream. She wants the headline night 2.
Well, that ain't gonna happen.
The more stars, the more top stars larger than life, the merrier. I guess that's where Becky's clearly there, at least from the women, for the women. But
I can tell you from a worker's perspective and a fan's perspective, in a way, I don't want to see another Becky Lynch Bianca Belair match.
I don't think we're getting one.
That's fair.
But I'm just saying I don't want to see it because it's outplayed, right? Yeah. So who would you put in that kind of spot? You talk about Ronda Rousey. Now, she shit the bed.
She's fallen off a cliff.
She shit the bed.
She did.
All right.
Vito, let's be honest. Ronda was good when she had the great worker, the better workers working with her. Charlotte, Becky. Yeah. Now she's working, and it's that's all I'm going to say. Yeah.
Vito, let me ask you, as a performer, is it that she worked down to her opponent's level and that was the issue? It's who you working down to with who your opponent is, or is it just she just screwed the pooch on her own?
Guys, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you this, guys. Okay, being a great worker, okay, that means you have good matches with everybody. The thing that people don't realize, and when you look at my matches from before, like in WCW or you watch in ECW, or you always take bumps for your opponent to make them look strong. So this way it looks like you beat somebody, right? And if you look at some of the matches I've had, like just say WCW Big Vito against Carl Ouellet, okay? Now he came in, he wasn't a contract guy, but I bumped for him to make it so I could beat somebody respect, even though he was with the Quebecers and he was with the, Lance Storm and the Canadians. I was fighting for the US. But I took a lot of bumps for him to make him look competitive against me, right? And then when you talk about David Flair, when he had to come out for a hardcore match, David Flair never did a hardcore match in his life. I took bumps for him to make him look strong, like he can kick my ass, until I felt the time to turn the tide. If you don't make your opponent look strong or take bumps for them, the people are not going to believe it. You can come back and do your moves to make them count. But if you're not out there making that person shine and making them stand up tall while you're on the cell, then you don't have nothing. You're not a quality worker. Remember, Ronda Rousey was a UFC fighter. She came in on the fly. Yes, she's had some good matches, but is she able to carry somebody of that caliber? The answer is no.
And boy, so far she hasn't been. All right, next topic. Aaron, I'll start with you here. The U.S. title triple threat match was a hell of a match. Great finish. And this is one where you have a triple threat match and you had all three people in it a lot. It wasn't where someone was out and then they just had two people and then they kept like switching. They had all three involved most of the match. That was well done. And look, we crapped on the whole decision with Austin Theory losing the Money in the Bank briefcase. And granted, right, it's because Roman's a champion, and in their mind, he's not losing it anytime soon, and they just needed to reset that. But here he is, the U.S. champion anyway, through all of this. I mean, Lashley, they all looked good in this match. Rollins doesn't need a title. Theory probably does. What do you think on this whole thing? Like, I think Theory still has a lot of climbing to do.
Yeah.
But this is a good thing. I think last night him going over in a solid match helped him, obviously, compared to where we were at talking about him 2 weeks ago. What do you think?
I think it's a good start so far with him, a good hitting of the reset button to reestablish him and get the ball rolling with him and allow him to build some momentum. I really enjoyed the triple threat. I agree with you 100%. I'm not a big fan of those triple threat matches where one guy is just resting on the outside while the other two are in the ring. I like when all three guys are interacting and they're all in the mix pretty much an equal amount of the time. I think that it was probably a good call with him to put the U.S. title on him. I like the new attitude that he has. I think that has helped a lot. He's got a great look and he can go in the ring. We've seen him in there with Rollins and Lashley and several others, and he's always shined. I think he's always performed well in the ring. And is it just me, or is he put on a little bit of muscle mass? I feel like he's gotten a little bit bigger.
He looks like like that early John Cena. Remember when John Cena, like, I don't know if he's purposely trying to do that or if that's just his body build, but
I mean, he looks in great shape. Like the guy is looking like $1 million right now, and he's continuing to tease a match with John Cena at WrestleMania. So I'm wondering if they're still going to do that, and maybe they will do a United States Championship match, John Cena challenging Austin Theory at WrestleMania. I think we may have talked about this, Virtue. The idea that Theory kind of resembles Randy Orton in 2007 when he started getting very angry and vicious. I think it's great. I mean, so far, so good with Theory. I like what they're doing with him with the more aggressive side.
Now, Vito, I don't know what happened. I'm sure he's having some internet issues, but I agree with that, Aaron. And Walter, what's your take here? I'm not saying this is a bad thing, right? Lashley, right? Once you're like at that WWE title level, like Lashley and Rollins are, you can do the U.S. thing for so long. I mean, look what Cena did with it for a while. But at some point, you got to use that title to elevate the next generation, the next top stars. So I think it was perfectly done last night. Like, what do you think?
I think it was perfectly done. And I think they want to do Theory Cena, and the whole crap that they did with Theory before, it wouldn't have made sense. And I think now it makes sense. Now that you did this, and like, look, he beat Rollins and he beat Lashley in the triple threat. He got his title back. Now you build him strong again, and now the Cena versus Theory makes sense. And I feel like that's what they were doing. They were just trying to rebuild it, because if they put Cena versus Theory and booked him the way they were booking him before this whole angry Theory, then it would have made no sense. We wouldn't have bought in a match, and we would have thought that Cena would have ran over him, and it would have made no sense. We wouldn't have saw them as equal level opponents where Theory had an actual chance of beating Cena. You do it this way and you book him strong. Now we think, oh wow, he can actually get over Cena, and I actually think he should. I think that Theory should beat Cena for the title. I mean, defend the title at WrestleMania, beat Cena, and look good for the rest of the next year. And that's how you do it. That's how you raise someone to the main event level. He needs to take steps at a time. And right now he's like in between it, and this could be a stepping stool to get to the next level.
Now, before we talk about the main event, which is the Bloodline, the War Games match, anything else happened at Survivor Series that was notable? Like, I know AJ Styles went over Finn Balor. I was kind of scratching my head there, because don't you want to build the heel heat up more? Anything you guys want to add besides the main event War Games match that we're going to talk about? I just want to make sure I didn't skip anything. Obviously, the women's War Game match, the U.S. title, were my key points besides the main match. But Walter, Aaron, anything?
The triple threat definitely stole the night. I think. I'm trying to think what would have been the sleeper match. I don't think there's nothing else really to add, just to go to the main event.
So here we have the whole storyline.
AJ Styles and Finn Balor was fine, but yeah, the triple threat was one of the best matches. I mean, there was only 5 matches on the card,
and yeah, they still went long.
The War Games matches are long, like 30, 40 minutes. So it made sense. So we get to the main event. Obviously, they're milking the whole thing with Sami Zayn and Jey Uso, and they're both talking to Roman backstage. You got to love Paul Heyman photo bombing the camera all the time, but he should. He has the 2 titles for Roman. But this played out exactly how you thought it would. I wasn't quite sure if they were still going to kind of make Sami goof up or have that moment that hey, I'm with the Bloodline, to try to convince Jey more than anything. And that's the route they took. I know some people want this thing to milk on. Like I even said, remember I originally said, kick Sami out. He's not Samoan. Doesn't make sense, right? Because Roman went to a part-time contract. I get it. They were trying to find content for the Bloodline every week on TV. Put Sami in there. Perfect. Well, it's escalated to this point now. Now you think they're unified, Walter. So I'm going to come to you. We're guessing now what's going to happen. I personally thought everything went exactly like Sami did it. Him and Jey hugged, and then if Roman would have just made a little nod to Jey, and then they would have took out Sami. Could you imagine the pay-per-view going off? People would have been pissed, booed. I don't know if that would have been bad heat or whatever. They didn't do that. They're going to let Sami be the honorary Uso longer. We know at some point it's coming. Come on. The Bloodline Samoan. What's your whole take? What's your whole take on all of this? I mean, we're still talking about it.
I love it.
You know what I mean?
This is the biggest storyline they got going. First time they've done actual long-term storytelling in a long time. I saw this coming. I honestly thought, like at the end, Roman was going to, after everybody hugged and everything, Sami's purpose ran out, and I thought Roman might have went. Just a small part of me thought Roman might have went like this or something. And then when Jey was hugging him, he would have slammed him, and they would have. But they're going to milk it. I think they're going to milk it even further. They're going to take the honorary out of there, and he's going to be Sami Uso. They're going to go all in with this. And then at some point, I don't know how it's going to get done, but we all know the inevitable is going to happen, and something's going to happen where Sami gets either kicked out, turned out, or Kevin Owens gets in his head, and we finally see the KO Sami Zayn win the titles at WrestleMania. Maybe it's a Royal Rumble elimination. Maybe he goofs up and eliminates one of the Usos during the Royal Rumble, and then that's what starts it. But I got a little choked up when Jey finally hugged Sami and accepted him into it. So this is what you want. You want to draw the emotion out of fans, and this is the best thing they got going. And it's just awesome to see something like this. And I can't wait to see the next step. And then that's that's what you should do in wrestling to keep fans tuned in. Is make somebody can't wait to see what's next, and they're doing it perfect.
And that's the thing. At some point, right, we're gonna find out the whole deal with Sami Zayn. Hey, Aaron, Vito had to reboot his internet. Is he in the waiting room? He said he's locked out. So we might have After Dark today because Big Vito coming back. So I don't know if you don't see him. I'll message him in a minute. Walter, what I wanted to ask you though, could they be maybe? Is there a small chance they could be setting Sami Zayn up to be the guy that could cost Roman the championships or whatever? So if they do have Rock come in versus Reigns, they don't have to have the titles on the line like we've talked about, because that wouldn't need titles on the line. Could this whole thing with Sammy being part of the bloodline and looking like everything's going to be good because he could be that guy that costs Roman the titles before that big match against The Rock at WrestleMania? I don't know.
It could be. We don't know. Like, maybe there's going to be a new version of the screw job. Montreal Chamber is coming up. We don't know what they're going to do. Like, maybe Sammy's in the chamber and somehow maybe Roman defends it in the chamber and something happens. We don't know where they're going, but it sounds like it. But I see more like the whole thing that leads to dissension is going to be something in the Rumble. Sammy's going to accidentally eliminate an Uso. Something's going to happen there. That's where I see it coming, but who knows?
Now, Vito, while you were in the makeup room powdering your nose and your forehead, so right now we're talking about the whole bloodline thing, but we'll come back to, we talked about Austin Theory, I think, when you were gone as well. What did Vito miss when he left, Aaron? Was it?
I'm going to say Austin Theory. I didn't get a chance to talk about Austin Theory.
That's
think
what it was.
For him to win the title, and then the promo he cut afterward was very good. Now we established Austin Theory as something, right? And then when he said, I'm not going to be laughing or smiling, I am going to be the serious heel, which is what he needed to do. Good for Austin Theory. Let's see how far he can run with this, okay? Now, the two guys he beat are two credible guys. That should give him the ups. Now let's get to the bloodline, right?
Yep.
And we talk about the bloodline. I thought it was a very good match with a good story. But the thing that I was most intrigued with was the Paul Heyman promo afterwards. How Paul Heyman appreciated Sami Zayn for being a part of the bloodline and said he was just an extra, but he wound up being something prominent in this and gave him the major ups and gave Sami Zayn the rub he needed maybe to be a main eventer or main event WrestleMania, because right now the card, we really don't know what we have going on. But in the same token, you have the screw job for Owens, and you know what? Sami Zayn has got a secret love for, Owens, and I could see a screw job coming for Roman Reigns losing the title.
I mean, what better way? I was just talking about that, Vito. If they do have Rock Reigns penciled in for Mania, and you don't want the titles on that match because, hey, Rock's not going to win these titles. He's only part-time, just to have the bloodline, because that's all that match needs. Why not have Sami Zayn be the one that costs Roman his titles to free him up to do that program with The Rock with no titles?
I got a question for all four of you guys. I got a question, okay? Here's a very good question.
Three of us.
All four, because I'm questioning myself. All right, here we go. All right. Who is the better all-around performer, Sami Zayn or MJF? Who's hotter right now?
Now, look, like Vito, I'm going back to WrestleMania when Sami Zayn wrestled Knoxville, and I absolutely loved that match for what it was. And I said, my buddy and I said, we got a kick out of this. I'm like, that's Sami being a company man. Jackass was out at the time. And look where Sami Zayn is now.
Right.
Because he did his part then, and people were making fun of it. Like, I'm telling you, dude, it all happens for a reason.
No, it does. But who would you rather have?
That's tough, man. Right now with the Sami Zayn bloodline thing, I like it. I might like it more than MJF. If you take that away, Sami Zayn was kind of stale to me, other than the comedy stuff. So that's tough,
It is tough, but I'm gonna go with Sami because he can make anybody look good.
Okay.
He's learning, Vito. Walter's learning.
He's learning. He shut up. He agreed with me, and he did good.
I said a coin flip. Aaron, did you pick?
Well, you're just being neutral, Virtue. That's how you roll.
That's right. But Aaron, what are your thoughts? You think I'm on point with what I said? Who's better? Who would you rather have? Because if you had to pick, I think AEW would rather watch Sami Zayn.
Sami Zayn is fantastic. It's hard to knock him in any way. He is such a great wrestler, and he's a great personality. He's very entertaining. He can do anything the company needs him to do. So he is more well-rounded for sure. I think he is very versatile as a performer. MJF is good at what he does, which is being a complete a-hole, going out there and pissing people off. He's one of the best, if not the best, at doing that in this day and age. But as far as all around, overall, all the attributes, I think Sami Zayn. But Sami Zayn, to his credit, has been around for a very long time. MJF is still young. He still has time to get better in time, and he may become more well-rounded as time goes on. And we all talk about, like, what if MJF goes to WWE? What would he do? He would be watered down. Could he adapt and perform at a high level with the limitations? So the jury is out on MJF.
I got one more for you guys, right?
Okay.
Two guys who we didn't even talk about during this whole segment were the two guys who they said were going to had the it factor to be world champions for a very long time. And that's AJ Styles and Finn Balor. We have not mentioned them. And they had a shit match.
Well, so Vito, we did bring it up when you were gone, and we were like, well, we can kind of skip over. It wasn't really anything to
But
know
that's
about.
something that there is two guys who was supposed to be the future of the company, because when AJ Styles came up, he wanted to be bigger than Cena, and Cena cut him up, sliced him up. Bro, you ain't even on my level or the level below me, all right? And you're worried about a poster, right? And you're worried about bullshit. You're hot for 6 months. And that's all he ever really was, hot for 6 months. Finn Balor, in his first day as champion, gets hurt. That crushed him. That was it. Finn Balor belongs in NXT. That's where he's suited. AJ Styles hasn't done nothing really great ever since he lost the title. He's had some good storylines, but aside from the Undertaker cinematic match, what would you really say he's been doing? Hanging around with his boys, fighting a bunch of other guys in a clique, which is good, but it's not where they projected him to be at this point.
Didn't those two wrestle some years ago at Survivor Series, Aaron? Balor and AJ? So, it's like when you've already had really solid matches against each other, I think it's so expected to do that again that it's – I don't know. I think I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that it was tough to go out there and deliver to their capabilities. I'm not saying they had a stinker, but I don't think they had anything memorable.
No.
It was like an AJ Styles win, like on Raw, like a match you'd see on Raw.
The problem was that tag team that AJ was stuck with almost brought him down to where we almost didn't want. He lost a little credibility, and he's got to work his way back up. That's what happened.
The same way Kenny Omega lost credibility when he was at AEW, and those two guys came on with him. And where did they go? They shit the bed and went down the tubes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Vito, before I pass it on to Aaron, anything else you want to add about the Bloodline finish? And they're all united now, and Jay and Sammy hugged, and Roman is the master of them all, or you could say Heyman's the master.
You want to know what I think? I think they're setting up Sammy, and I think that hug at the end was a setup because I think they're going to turn on him. I
do too.
I think they're going to turn on him.
That's what I think is going to happen too. I think that they're going to come out there and say, "We used you, Sammy. We're done with you," and they're going to beat the holy hell out of him. And I hope it's a vicious beatdown. They should just beat the living shit out of Sami Zayn, and he will be the ultimate babyface in 2023.
Where is he over the most? Is it Montreal?
Montreal.
That's Montreal anytime soon to be able to do the turn there. That would be awesome.
Yeah, something's going down in Montreal for Elimination Chamber.
Yeah. Well, Aaron,
Bret Hart doing another screw job.
Or maybe Sami Zayn gets screwed. We get a new Montreal screw job.
You got till January for the Rumble. So if you do a vicious beatdown now, you give him enough time to recover to come back for a Rumble.
Well, and I agree with Mr. Tito. Like, the problem with AJ Styles is he's up there. He's not a young competitor. He's mid-40s now. It's hard for him to go out there and deliver what people would expect to see.
Aaron, you just turned 40. I mean, and you love cats. And I look at your posts and you're with your wife, and you live the mid-40 life already, and you're ahead of your time. But I mean, we still like you. You are ahead of your time. But because you're in your mid-40s doesn't mean you slow down. You only get better with age.
Well, right? Look at he talked about Lashley being 44, having his top main event run finally. Now, different style, different.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, AJ Styles does a lot of crazy things, and he's probably had a greater toll taken out on his body.
Those low blows screwed AJ. Like, it just made him look so weak. All those
100%. Like, his balls are so sore from like Nakamura and company that it's taken a toll on him, man.
There's another guy who's supposed to be the next coming of Brock Lesnar, and he never lived up to that billing. Nakamura. And they made him like the straight shoot character, made him good, and then they made him a goof, and then they tried to bring him back. And once you try to make somebody a goof, it never happens, never fulfills himself. And I'll bring this to a point. Everybody here is a Ric Flair fan. Doesn't matter what you say. Everybody, all of us. I had the pleasure of wrestling him on pay-per-view, working with him, being in the ring with him, right? When I was in there with Ric Flair, I was in there with Ric Flair. Somewhere along the line, she turned into this character that didn't go with the Ric Flair that everybody knows. And he became goofy, right? Getting slapped by women and doing all the stupid stuff and throwing your clothes and hair. It wasn't Ric Flair. And when you look at what he become now, and you say, I got to have this last match, and I got to do this, and you got to do that. Sometimes, like, your credibility, not to say that he's not Mr. Wrestling, because if it wasn't for Flair and Hogan, we wouldn't have wrestling. I can tell you right now, right? Those are the two guys who you knew. Those are the two guys who were the names. It's either Flair, Hogan, Flair. But Hogan at least kept his dignity. Hogan might have got a bum rap with this, with the alleged saying of some nasty things during a private moment defending his daughter, but he never lost his wrestling dignity, and he never did nothing silly. He was still Hulk Hogan. Mr. Ric Flair, you look at him and he's not Ric Flair no more. He's just, I don't know what you say he is, because Terry Funk never did this. Dory Funk never did this. Those guys from that era never did this. But it's just that Ric Flair just turned into something totally different. And it kills me.
They were going to make him like an old perv at one point if what's her name didn't end up pregnant, and they had to kill that story. They were like almost making him try to look like an old perv in that story.
And like when you talk about great wrestlers, right? And you talk, and we've all talked about this before. When you try to make fun of somebody, you say, okay, we're going to put Dusty Rhodes in polka dots, but if you're a great worker, you can get it over. We put Vito in a dress, but Vito was a great worker. He got that shit over, right? There have been other guys who've been given some characters that you never would think that would get them over, but Goldust is my favorite character of all time, because that might have been a nonsense gimmick, but he brought that to a different level, like nobody's seen. And my favorite character is Goldust.
The original Ron Goldust, like those first.
All original Goldust, and what he did, all the promos, all the stuff. That's wrestling, because you're a character.
Yeah.
Not today's wrestlers. And that's
that stuff he did with Razor Ramon was just.
Well said. All right, Aaron, do you want to add anything about the Bloodline? I know we got After Dark because I saw a bunch of
we got a lot. Let's run through those. The Bloodline stuff, fantastic, loving it. And Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat, says, should Sami Zayn do a Samoan blood oath with Jey Uso? What is that exactly? Like they cut themselves and shake hands and mix their blood?
I don't know.
If we see Sami Zayn with a Samoan tribal on his chest, you know they really took this to the next level.
That would be funny.
And they got to do it the
even
shark
if they
tooth
did a
way.
really good temporary one, but that would be great.
You got to do it the traditional way with the shark tooth.
Yeah.
Imagine if they did that. That would be like legit. That's something believable because if you came to Raw, look, you're a true oos. You're the man. It's just like on Yellowstone when they brand you, right? You want to be part of Yellowstone? All right. Your family now.
Yeah, I dig it. Teaching in Color X sent in a $2 super chat. Says, was War Games better than Blood and Guts? That's an interesting question because they were quite different despite being the same basic idea. The Blood and Guts was definitely more violent.
War Games was, but the men's match was better just because of the storyline with the Bloodline. That you didn't need anything else. The wrestling was all trivial at that point.
You want to know something, guys? You know how I feel about the War Games for women? Not that they don't do a good job and they don't try. I just think that women are better than that, and I don't think they should do that kind of spot. They should do that. I think that they're shortchanging themselves because they have a lot to live up to compete with the men, and sometimes some of the stuff doesn't come off as planned. But I would like to see more women's matches, competitive matches, instead of doing the War Games. Even if they had a kendo stick match, at least it's one item, one gimmick in the ring to use. My thoughts.
And plus, I'm not a fan of doing 2 War Games matches in one night. I think it's okay to do just one. And I don't think it's necessarily a knock on the women if you don't have a women's War Games match. Let them do something else where they can really showcase their abilities.
Traditional Survivor Series elimination.
Yeah.
Last night. That's all they needed.
That's more of a product of the world we live in now in social media. Because if they didn't, everybody would shit on them and be like, oh, look, they're not letting the women do what the men do. That's more of a product of the society we live in that they kind of have to.
All right, Walter, you make a good point here because now let's
Walter's
go.
Like, yay! Thanks.
Yay! He got the yay. That's a $2. That's a $2 clip. Make sure you put $2 in. No kidding. All right. So Walter made a good point here. It's like the women and men have a conflict, right? What happens when we finally get a woman to go into the men's War Games? How does that pan out? How do you handle that? Because you just said it's a woman's world. They have rights. They have all this stuff, and they stand up. The revolution of women's wrestling. It's all great, and we all see it on the independents, guy versus girl, which I don't personally like. But to see a woman come down for War Games,
yeah,
if you're swinging for the fences with a kendo stick, or you're lashing somebody, with a belt, that shit hurts. It's
And
not. Go ahead.
Well, having another War Games match to start the show, it takes the shine off of the main event one, and that's why you should just do the one. Like in the women's match, could have had a traditional 5-on-5 elimination Survivor Series match. It would have been nothing wrong with that.
I honestly think that AJ versus Finn should have been the traditional. It should have been OC versus the Judgment Day as traditional. It shouldn't have been 1-on-1.
Yeah, I agree. Just get one traditional match on the card. That's all we needed. But maybe next year.
All right, Aaron, you got to mow through these super chats, man.
Okay. Psycho Jet Black with a little funny one here. $2 says, worst gimmick, beaver cleavage or the red rooster?
Beaver cleavage.
Beaver cleavage.
Yeah, I mean, Red Rooster, at least Terry Taylor, like you said, Vito, he did the best he could with it. He tried to run with it for a while, and he had like a solid year or two with it. I think Beaver Cleavage fizzled out in like a month or two.
They had a month, and that was it. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Darren G sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Darren. And this is directed towards Vito. He wants to know your favorite opponent of all time. What opponent did you trust the most in the ring with you? That's a loaded question.
I trusted everybody in the ring, and I always could take care of myself. The guy I had some great matches with was RVD. I had a great match with Terry Funk. I like being in the ring with Flair. Bret Hart in my early days, the British Bulldog, the Boss Man, all the guys who took the time to teach me, like the Honky Tonk Man, Ivan Koloff, a lot of guys who who don't get the recognition because they all want today's stars. But if it wasn't for those guys who helped break me in the business to teach me, I wouldn't have made it to where I was. So this shout out goes to all the veterans who took the time to teach me from my WWF days. And people forget, I made it to the WWF in my first year, my rookie year. And I got to wrestle Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty and the Big Boss Man and the Undertaker and all these guys. And these guys took care of me. They didn't hurt me, right? So if it wasn't for them teaching me the way, I wouldn't have passed it on to the guys, you know, when I got a chance to be the big-time star, like in WCW or ECW. So it was a great thing. Me and Rob Van Dam had some great matches. I wrestled all the top guys in ECW, from Taz to the Dudleys to Sabu, everybody. And I trusted them all because I knew they weren't going to hurt me. Now, my one buddy, who I love dearly, Balls Mahoney, my old travel partner, I used to tell him, I said, Balls, please, I beg of you, look at this face. Women love this face. Please don't fuck up my head. No, Vito, don't worry about it. I'll do it. You know, Vito, nobody. I'm teaching you now. Hit me with the flat part of the fucking chair, all right? And don't hit me with anything else. Because Balls used to swing that thing. He didn't know where he was swinging. He used to hit guys with the rim. That fucking rim cracked so many heads open, guys. And that's no disrespect to my buddy, right? But I used to beg him, and I used to be like, I trusted him. And I was like, thank you, Lord. Thank you. All right, here we go. Next one. Go ahead, Aaron. What's the next?
All right, let's get to it. Well, Psycho Jet Black has another funny one, I guess. Dress Vito was more over than Mustafa Ali and EC3.
Well, yeah, Vito, you had a 6-month run of not losing with that gimmick at first. Were you getting vignettes to shop? Did your shopping vignettes make SmackDown too? Or
yeah, they all did.
Yeah.
You know, you guys, I had an undefeated streak. It might have not have been as long as Goldberg's, but how many guys have an undefeated streak in the WWE?
I legitimately thought that you won more matches than Mustafa Ali. I'm pretty confident in saying that.
You might be right.
I think so.
And you definitely had a longer run than EC3 in WWE, that's for sure.
Oh my God.
And
but you know what?
Those
those guys, you know, quality wrestlers that just didn't get over the hump, right? And maybe they didn't, you know, Mustafa Ali is a very interesting guy because he complained about a spot in a match. And what was it in Saudi where he complained about the match should have been more elevated than what it was? You have a prime match and you're the baby face in the country, and you're complaining on social media about where you are on the card. Be thankful you got the spot.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Be lucky to get the paycheck too. All right, let's see here. Killgaze sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Says nice.
This is officially after dark, by the way.
Okay.
Nice job, Aaron, Walter, and V. But is that Vito or Virtue? Classy as always to let a Make-A-Wish kid on to have a show. Okay, it must be Vito is the V. Any response to that, Virtue, or you're just like, thanks for the super
I think
chat?
I'm the Make-A-Wish. I think he's insulting me.
I don't know. Thanks for the super chat. I'm Make-A-Wish, Vito. Vito, you must come up here to my wedding, and that's my Make-A-Wish.
Now,
Make-A-Wish.
Now, let's get to this super chat. Then I got a question for Walter. Which will have a bigger pop? Daniel Bryan finally turning on Wyatt in the chamber, or the Bloodline finally turning on Sami Zayn?
Bloodline and Sammy, because we kind of saw the whole DB didn't even take that long with the DB and the Wyatt. You didn't get as much investment into it.
And if they do it in Montreal, like that will be something else for sure.
I mean, we got to wait till it happens, right? But then we'll visit that. But I think the turn, like if they turn on Sammy, and if it's Roman that spears him, Roman personally.
He actually met with the Wyatts. He met the steel cage match on Raw where Bryan left the Wyatt family. But I think the Bloodline's going to turn against Sammy. It's not going to be a situation where Sami Zayn leaves. He's with the Bloodline now. He is He is 100% with them. He pledged his allegiance. Maybe he'll get one of those tribal tattoos.
Can you imagine if they did what Vito said and they actually do that tribal?
And then turn on him. He's not blood. It's going to be epic if they play it right.
Right. Sami Zayn, if you ever watch this show, which I'm sure you do weekly, all right, if you get the tattoo and they turn on you, man, that is the biggest storyline in the past 10 years. You have overcome a lot of stuff, and that would be like serious, believable, real life stuff.
Could you imagine if he's like, I got to show you guys something, and then he pulls that shirt off? That would be funny.
I think they're gonna drop the honorary first. They're really gonna push this.
Well, maybe they'll actually have a blood oath coming up, because Building Nexus sent in $5, and then we can do our plugs. Says Rock and Roman's grandparents did a blood oath. That's how they're cousins. So they could do a blood oath. They could even build that up for SmackDown. They could do like a blood oath ceremony with Sami Zayn getting his official initiation as an official Uso, no longer an honorary Uso, but he is official Sammy Uso. They could very well do that. That's a great idea. Pass it along to Triple H. Tweet them.
You could film something where they're at a campfire. They do some kind of tribal thing. You could film something.
You know what I feel like? This is Roman and Sammy, and I know it's Sammy with the whole bloodline, but Roman and Sammy, this is like Roman's when Rock and Hurricane had their little thing like that. I get that in a different way, but that's similar. That's what I'm feeling out of this. I don't know. Remember those days?
The Hamburglar stuff? That stuff cracked me up.
We'll see how far it goes. Aaron, are we caught up on Super Chat?
We're caught up.
All right, and we'll see if we can get out of here. Sometimes the After Dark continues. But Vito, it's been an honor to have you back. Thanks for grinding through your internet and coming back. And people loved you on the show. They always do. You had our live viewers up in 3 figures, which something we couldn't do the last time we had a show. Not you, but the last show we did a couple weeks ago. Go ahead, Vito. Anything you'd like to say in closing?
It is always a pleasure to be here on the NoDQ, forum. Check us out, the Big Vito brand, Big Vito LaGrasso at BigVito.com. Check out all our stuff, guys. You got the shirt, you got everything right there. Hit up Miss Noelle. She's always working good. You got Getting Color. We got Men of Business. We got a lot of great shows. And thank you very much, Aaron, for having me back. It's always a pleasure to be here. I definitely enjoy it. It's one of my favorite shows. And, of course, we have a newbie in Walter. And, Walter, you did a good job, man. You did a good job.
All right. Walter getting some praise by Vito. Walter, go ahead and follow that up.
First, thank you for having me up here, and thanks for busting my balls, Vito. I love this. This is my favorite review I've been on, man. To have my balls busted by Vito.
No, hold on. This is the only review you've been on. It's official. You made it to the main roster.
I made it. I graduated NXT, baby.
Your balls were busted more than AJ Styles.
Big G dropped the ball and couldn't be on. He was going to originally be on, and Walter picked that ball up and said, "You know what? I don't know what I'm in store for with Vito, but I'm going to do it."
Theory, right? Walter Theory.
Exactly. Oh, but for in terms of plugs, I have Instagram. You can follow me on Cowfire Farms to see that kind of content and what we do there. If you want to learn about that industry, also, my merch here. You could get on NoDQ/merch. You can get the Walter Cruz shirt and the other shirts. And on Twitter, I'm at Walter Alex Cruz.
Thanks for being on. And a shout out to Colin the Cleaver Andrew, who's been in the chat. He was enjoying the show as a moderator. He's also been on the review before. Shout out to you, Colin. Okay, Aaron, over to you.
Shout out to Report Card Radio, too, who's been around since the beginning. He remembers the original NoDQ review. Whatever happened to Jexy? I guess Walter's the new Jexy.
She's doing some indies in Ohio area, but I haven't heard from her.
Do you like beach balls, Walter?
Sure.
All right, well, there you go. Walter, he's a team player. He loves the beach balls, and we're happy to have him on. Thank you, Vito, for coming on. This was a fun Sunday night edition of the NoDQ review. We all appreciate your viewership and support. Follow Big Vito brand, follow Walter, follow NoDQ Virtue, and of course, follow NoDQ for the latest wrestling news and gossip. We love the gossip. And have a great week, everybody. little bit of a break now. Everybody have a happy and safe holiday season. Enjoy your time with your families, and we'll see you next time. Virtue, go ahead and wrap us up.
That's it. You did it. I mean, go to nodq.com/merch, and all the Virtue collection, all the different shirts are over there. Check them out. Of course, the NoDQ stuff as well. And make sure you go to thebigvitobrand.com. Thanks, Vito. It's always a blast having you because you beat Terry Funk for the hardcore title on Nitro.
Now, wait a minute.
Yes.
Vito, do you remember when Terry Funk almost got kicked by a horse on Thunder?
Yes.
That was crazy, man. I still remember that.
I was there for that. That was fucking sick, man. But
Yeah.
hey, anything for the wrestling business back then, right? Because that's when wrestling was wrestling.
Yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, good times and Virtue. Anything else before we sign off? Oh, I forgot to ask Walter. Walter, are you going to be at the wedding?
At Virtue's wedding?
Yeah.
We'll invite
if I can make it out.
But
you just got to let me know when it is. And
Is Walter an honorary NoDQ panelist now?
He buys all my shirts, so yeah, he'll get an invite.
Oh,
he doesn't have to show up.
An honorary NoDQ Uzi.
Yeah, exactly. And Walter, he buys the shirts. So Virtue, you'll get a pretty good gift if you invite him.
Vito, some people want me versus you in a NoDQ debate coming up here. So we're going to have to find, you and I differ on some topics, that's for sure. Maybe we'll have to get that in the works as well. But I got other people like Colin and Robbie Weiss, man. Everybody wants to line up and face Virtue. But nonetheless, this has been the NoDQ review number 214 on a Sunday night post-Survivor Series for Big Vito LaGrasso, for Aaron Rift, and for Walter Cruz. I am Virtue. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.